Imagine this: the power is out, the world faces an energy crisis, and it's the dead of winter. Your greenhouse is the only thing ensuring a steady food supply. But how do you keep it warm without electricity? Enter the Amish and their bizarrely effective natural methods. From using literal mirrors and gravel that generates heat, these techniques are not just ingenious, they're life-saving. Underground greenhouses, Walipini. Imagine stepping into a greenhouse that feels like a cozy underground haven, even in the middle of a harsh winter. The Amish often use a method called the Walipini, a partially underground greenhouse, to leverage the Earth's natural insulation for maintaining stable temperatures year-round. A Walipini greenhouse is built by digging into the earth, typically 4 to 6 feet deep. This design takes advantage of the soil's natural ability to maintain a steady temperature, which hovers around 50–60 degrees Fahrenheit even during freezing winters. The roof, made from clear plastic or glass, is angled to capture maximum sunlight. Inside, the walls are often reinforced with stone, brick, or compacted soil to absorb and retain heat throughout the day. For the Amish, this design is more than just functional. It proves their resourceful approach to farming. The sun's energy, combined with the Earth's insulation, creates a microclimate that allows plants to thrive, no matter the weather outside. Building your own underground greenhouse is quite easy. All you need to do is to select a sunny location with good drainage. Dig to a depth of 4 to 6 feet, ensuring the floor stays dry by adding gravel or a drainage system if necessary. Use reinforced materials like stone or concrete to stabilize the walls. For the roof, opt for transparent materials angled toward the sun's path for maximum light exposure. In any emergency, a Walipini greenhouse can sustain food production without relying on external heating systems. It's a robust, low-tech solution that ensures food security in the harshest environments. I've always admired the simplicity of this design. It's like working with nature instead of fighting against it. Seeing a Walipini in action feels like stepping into a slice of summer, even on the coldest days. While the Walipini showcases the ingenuity of working with the earth itself, what if I told you that another heating method literally feeds off nature's waste? Let's look at how compost can generate heat that's both sustainable and efficient. Composting. When we think of composting, we often imagine it as a way to enrich soil, but the Amish take this humble practice a step further, using it to heat their greenhouses. Composting for heat is a natural and ingenious solution where organic matter, such as food scraps, leaves and farm waste, decomposes to release warmth. It's a method rooted in sustainability and practicality, turning waste into warmth. In an emergency where resources are scarce, compost heating provides a dual advantage: warmth and fertilizer. It's a closed-loop system that not only sustains plant growth, but also keeps the greenhouse viable in the harshest conditions. There's something deeply satisfying about this method. It's like giving waste a second life. I've tried small-scale composting for warmth in my garden, and the heat it generates is surprisingly effective. In Amish greenhouses, compost piles are carefully placed to capture and distribute heat. The process begins with layering nitrogen-rich materials, like food scraps and manure, with carbon-heavy items, like straw and dried leaves. As microorganisms break down this organic matter, the compost pile generates substantial heat, sometimes reaching temperatures of 140 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. This heat radiates into the greenhouse, keeping plants warm during chilly nights. To optimize this setup, the Amish often situate compost piles along the greenhouse's interior walls or in nearby trenches, ensuring the heat stays contained while enriching the soil with nutrients over time. You can replicate this method at home by starting a compost pile in or near your greenhouse. Begin with a mix of green, nitrogen and brown carbon materials in a ratio of about 2:1. Keep the pile moist but not soggy. and turn it regularly to maintain aeration and encourage heat generation. If space is limited, consider building a compost bin directly inside the greenhouse, using it as both a heat source and a fertilizer generator for your plants. Speaking of using what's naturally available, the Amish take advantage of every ray of sunlight. But they don't just rely on what the sun gives. They find ways to amplify its impact with solar reflectors. Solar reflectors. The Amish have an incredible ability to amplify nature's resources, and solar reflectors are a prime example. By using mirrors or reflective surfaces, they redirect additional sunlight into their greenhouses, ensuring every possible ray is captured to keep the space warm and productive. The first time I saw solar reflectors in action, I was amazed at the difference they made. It's one of those techniques that seems almost too simple to be effective, yet it transforms a greenhouse's efficiency entirely. Solar reflectors are typically placed along the north-facing side of Amish greenhouses, an area that doesn't receive direct sunlight. These reflectors, which can be as simple as mirrors or sheets of reflective aluminum, bounce sunlight back into the greenhouse, increasing the amount of light and warmth inside. This technique is especially effective during winter months when sunlight is scarce and every bit of heat matters. What's fascinating is the Amish often build these reflectors themselves, using salvage materials like old mirrors or polished metal. The positioning is crucial. They angle the reflectors to capture sunlight at just the right time of day for maximum effect. It's actually very easy to implement solar reflectors in your greenhouse. Start by sourcing reflective materials like aluminum sheeting, old mirrors, or even white painted boards. Position these on the north side of your greenhouse, angling them to reflect sunlight into the structure during peak sun hours. For a more advanced setup, you can create adjustable reflectors that track the sun's movement throughout the day. It's incredible how mirrors can make such a difference, but sometimes the simplest materials, like water, can be just as effective. Black water containers. Water is more than just a life source for plants. It's also a powerful heat reservoir. The Amish use black painted water barrels in their greenhouses to capture and store heat during the day, releasing it slowly at night to maintain a steady temperature. Large barrels or containers, often repurposed from other uses, are painted black to maximize heat absorption. These barrels are strategically placed where they'll receive the most sunlight, such as along the south-facing walls of the greenhouse. During the day, the black surface absorbs solar energy, warming the water inside. At night, the stored heat radiates out, preventing the greenhouse from becoming too cold. Some Amish farmers enhance this method by using multiple barrels placed in rows, creating a heat bank that can warm larger spaces effectively. You can also do this by collecting large, sturdy containers. Anything from 55-gallon barrels to smaller buckets will work. Paint them black with non-toxic, weatherproof paint and place them in areas that receive direct sunlight. For maximum efficiency, position the barrels near the plants that require the most warmth. This method is simple to set up and provides a reliable source of passive heat. I've experimented with this method in my own garden, and it's incredible how much warmth a few barrels can provide. Black water containers are an excellent off-grid solution for temperature regulation. In emergencies, when fuel or electricity might be unavailable, they ensure that greenhouses stay warm using nothing but the power of the sun. Now that we've explored heat storage above ground, let's shift our focus beneath the surface, where the Amish create hotbeds that warm plants from the roots up. Hotbeds. The first time I encountered a hotbed, I was amazed at how warm the soil felt in the middle of winter. It's a simple technique that transforms organic waste into something incredibly valuable. In Amish greenhouses, hotbeds start with a layer of compostable material, such as manure, leaves, and food scraps, placed beneath a raised planting bed. This layer can be several inches thick, depending on the desired heat level. As the compost decomposes, it releases heat, warming the soil above. The Amish often combine this method with cold frames for extra insulation, ensuring even delicate crops like lettuce and spinach can thrive in the winter. When the Amish want to keep their plants warm from the roots up, they turn to hotbeds. To create a hotbed, start by building a raised planting bed. Layer the bottom with a mix of green, nitrogen-rich, and brown, carbon-heavy materials such as grass clippings, manure, and dried leaves. Top this with a layer of soil for planting. As the compost breaks down, it will provide steady warmth to the plants. For an added boost, place a cold frame over the bed to trap even more heat. Hot beds don't just keep plants warm, they also enrich the soil with nutrients, creating a sustainable growing environment. In a prolonged power outage or during fuel shortages, this method ensures crops continue to grow without external energy inputs. While hotbeds bring heat up from below, stone walls capture and radiate warmth from all around. Stone walls. This method isn't just about the wall itself, it's also about placement. By situating the stone wall on the north side, the Amish protect the greenhouse from cold winds while maximising heat retention. Sometimes additional smaller stones are placed near plants to create microclimates, ensuring even delicate crops are shielded from frost. Amish greenhouses often feature a stone wall on the north side, where it doubles as a windbreak and a solar sink. During the day, the stones absorb heat from sunlight, particularly if they're dark-coloured or exposed to direct rays. At night, when temperatures drop, the stored heat is released slowly, keeping the greenhouse interior warm. Stone walls might seem like a static part of a structure, but for the Amish, they serve as powerful heat reservoirs. By building stone walls strategically within or around their greenhouses, the Amish harness the material's natural ability to absorb, store, and radiate heat, creating a stable environment for their plants. If you have an existing greenhouse, consider adding a stone wall to the north side. Use dark, dense stones like basalt or granite, which are particularly effective at absorbing heat. For smaller setups, you can stack stones or bricks around planting beds to create localized heat sinks. Ensure the wall has good sun exposure during the day, and pair it with other methods like thermal mass or mulch for even better results. I've always admired the timeless elegance of stone walls. They feel like they belong in any era, yet they're incredibly practical. Stone walls are durable, low maintenance, and entirely passive, making them an invaluable resource for long-term sustainability. Stone walls are sturdy and reliable, but the Amish don't stop there. They also use the surrounding land itself to insulate their greenhouses with a method called earth berming. Earth berming. Imagine wrapping your greenhouse in a warm, protective hug. That's essentially what earth berming does. By building mounds of soil around their greenhouses, the Amish create natural insulation that retains heat and shields the structure from harsh winds. Earth berms are carefully constructed along the lower walls of Amish greenhouses. These mounds of soil act as a thermal barrier, absorbing heat during the day and releasing it slowly at night. Additionally, the soil blocks cold winds from penetrating the structure, creating a more stable interior environment. In some cases, the Amish combine earth berming with partially underground greenhouses to maximize the insulating effect. The soil's natural properties help maintain consistent temperatures, reducing the need for supplemental heating. Earth berming is a completely passive heating method, making it invaluable during power outages or extreme weather events. To try earth berming, start by piling soil around the base of your greenhouse. Aim for mounds that are at least 2 to 3 feet high and pack tightly to prevent erosion. For added insulation, you can layer the mounds with straw or mulch. If you're constructing a new greenhouse, consider partially embedding the structure into the ground for even greater thermal benefits. It's a technique that requires no maintenance and lasts indefinitely, providing long-term resilience for self-sufficient living. It's amazing how the land can provide such natural insulation. But what about materials like water barrels or stones that can hold heat? That's where thermal mass comes into play. Thermal mass. Picture this. The sun sets and the temperature begins to plummet, but the greenhouse stays cozy, almost as if the warmth of the day is lingering. That's the power of thermal mass, a method the Amish use to keep their greenhouses warm through the night without relying on modern technology. The concept is beautifully simple. Thermal mass refers to materials that absorb heat during the day and release it slowly as temperatures drop. The Amish often place large water barrels, stones or bricks inside their greenhouses to perform this function. These materials act like batteries for heat, storing the sun's energy and radiating it back into space when it's needed most. In Amish greenhouses, water barrels are typically painted black to absorb as much heat as possible. These barrels are strategically positioned along walls where they'll receive direct sunlight. Stones or bricks are often used to line pathways or borders within the greenhouse, serving as an additional heat reservoir. The careful placement of these materials ensures even heat distribution, creating a stable environment for plants to thrive, even on frosty nights. I've tried a similar setup with water barrels in my garden, and it's amazing how much warmth they radiate after the sun goes down. It's a simple yet powerful way to take control of your growing environment, no matter the season. To implement thermal mass in your own greenhouse, start with what's readily available. Fill large containers, like water barrels or heavy-duty buckets, with water and place them where sunlight hits directly. Painting them a dark colour will enhance their heat absorption. Similarly, you can use bricks, concrete pavers, or even large rocks along planting beds or pathways to store and release heat. The key is to ensure these materials are exposed to sunlight during the day, so they can charge up with warmth. In an emergency, like an extended winter storm or a fuel shortage, this method can keep plants alive and food supplies steady. Thermal mass is fantastic for storing heat, but to keep that warmth from escaping, the Amish often rely on double-layered plastic or glass for insulation. Double-layered plastic or glass. The Amish know that sometimes doubling up is the simplest way to stay warm. By using double-layered plastic or glass in their greenhouses, they create an insulating barrier that traps heat and keeps the cold out. It's a straightforward yet highly effective method that ensures their plants thrive, even during harsh winters. Amish greenhouses often feature 2 layers of plastic sheeting or glass separated by a small air gap. This gap acts as a buffer, reducing heat transfer between the interior and the cold outside air. It's like wearing a double-layered coat. The warmth stays in and the chill is kept at bay. In some cases, the inner layer may be a clear polyethylene sheet, while the outer layer is more durable glass or polycarbonate. For added efficiency, the Amish ensure the layers are tightly sealed around the edges to prevent drafts. This setup creates a greenhouse that's both energy efficient and low maintenance, allowing them to focus on growing their crops. In emergencies, double-layer insulation can help maintain a stable growing environment without relying on additional heating sources. If you're looking to replicate this method, start by adding a second layer of plastic sheeting or glass to your greenhouse walls and roof. You can create the necessary air gap by using spacers, such as small blocks of wood or plastic clips, to keep the layers apart. Make sure the edges are securely sealed with weatherproof tape or cork to prevent heat loss. This simple upgrade can significantly improve the thermal performance of your greenhouse. I've seen this technique in action, and it's amazing how much of a difference one extra layer can make. While double layers protect the greenhouse as a whole, some plants need their own microclimate. That's where cloche covers come in. Cloche covers. Sometimes, even in a heated greenhouse, individual plants need a little extra care. That's where cloche covers come in. These small dome-like structures act as mini greenhouses within the larger greenhouse, providing an extra layer of warmth and protection for delicate crops. The Amish use cloche covers made from a variety of materials, including glass, plastic, or even repurposed jars. These covers are placed directly over individual plants or small clusters, trapping heat and protecting them from frost. Inside the cloche, the temperature remains significantly warmer than the surrounding air, creating an ideal microclimate for growth. One of the most resourceful aspects of this method is how the Amish reuse everyday items. Old mason jars, cut plastic bottles, or even small wooden frames covered with clear sheeting are commonly used as cloches. This approach combines sustainability with practicality, ensuring that nothing goes to waste. Cloche covers can protect your most valuable plants from sudden frost or temperature drops. They're an easy-to-implement solution that requires no electricity or advanced tools, making them ideal for self-sufficient living. I've used cloches in my own garden during early spring, and it's always amazing to see how well they protect young seedlings. It's like giving each plant its own little shelter, ensuring they get the best possible start. To try cloche covers at home, start by selecting materials that you already have on hand. Glass jars, clear plastic bottles, or pre-made plastic domes all work well. Place the cloche over individual plants, ensuring that it's securely anchored to prevent it from being blown away by the wind. On sunny days, lift the cover slightly to allow ventilation and prevent overheating. It's amazing how cloche covers provide targeted protection, but the Amish take it a step further with seasonal crop rotation, which keeps their greenhouses productive year-round. Seasonal crop rotation. In a live or die scenario, seasonal crop rotation can be a lifesaver. It minimises the need for external heating systems by leveraging the natural properties of plants to regulate the greenhouse environment. This technique also ensures a year-round food supply, which is invaluable when resources are scarce. For the Amish, timing is everything when it comes to farming. Seasonal crop rotation isn't just about soil health. It's also a clever way to harness the natural properties of plants to maintain warmth inside greenhouses. By carefully selecting heat-tolerant crops, or those that generate their own warmth, the Amish create a thriving environment even in colder months. The Amish strategically plant crops like kale, spinach or cabbage during winter months. These plants are naturally tolerant of lower temperatures and can thrive with minimal heat. In addition, they grow heat-producing plants, such as legumes or compost-friendly greens, which generate warmth as part of their growth or decomposition process. This system is thoughtfully planned, ensuring that each crop's needs align with the greenhouse's natural temperature. As the seasons shift, the Amish rotate crops, allowing the greenhouse to support a wide variety of plants while keeping the internal climate balanced. You can adopt this technique by starting with hardy, cool season crops like carrots, beets, or Swiss chard in the colder months. Pair these with plants that can generate heat, such as peas or other legumes, which also fix nitrogen in the soil. Rotate to heat-loving plants like tomatoes and peppers in the warmer months. This practice not only maximizes your greenhouse's efficiency, but also ensures healthy soil for long-term productivity. Crop rotation helps maintain balance in the greenhouse, but to protect the soil itself, the Amish use a simple yet powerful method: mulching. Mulching. For the Amish, protecting the soil is just as important as protecting the plants. By covering the ground inside their greenhouses with organic mulch, they create a natural insulating layer that locks in warmth and minimizes heat loss at the ground level. I've always appreciated the simplicity of mulching. It's one of those practices that feels intuitive, yet delivers incredible results. Seeing how it transforms cold, dry soil into a warm, thriving bed never fails to impress me. Amish farmers use materials like straw, shredded leaves, or wood chips as mulch. These materials are spread evenly across the soil, forming a thick layer that traps heat and retains moisture. Mulching, also prevents the soil from freezing, ensuring that roots remain healthy and active throughout the colder months. Interestingly, the Amish often pair mulching with composting, allowing the decomposition of organic matter to generate additional warmth. This combination creates a fertile, warm, growing environment that's ideal for winter crops. To apply this method in your day-to-day life, start by covering the soil in your greenhouse with a 2-3 inch layer of organic mulch. Materials like straw, dried grass clippings, or even old newspaper can work well. If you're growing vegetables, leave a small gap around the base of each plant to prevent rot. This simple technique not only keeps the soil warm, but also improves its overall health by adding nutrients as the mulch breaks down. Mulching locks warmth into the soil, but what about the air? The Amish have a clever solution for that too, using ventilation control and night covers to preserve heat when it matters most. Ventilation control and night covers. When night falls and temperatures plummet, the Amish rely on a straightforward yet highly effective strategy to preserve warmth, closing vents and covering windows. This simple practice is a cornerstone of their greenhouse management, ensuring that precious heat doesn't escape overnight. At sunset, Amish greenhouse operators close all vents and doors to trap warm air inside. Windows and other exposed areas are covered with thick cloth, blankets, or even straw mats to create an insulating barrier. This process helps minimize heat loss while preventing cold air from seeping in. For additional warmth, the Amish sometimes line the interior of their greenhouses with fabric or natural materials like burlap, which provide an extra layer of insulation. This approach is especially useful during the coldest months, when even a few degrees of retained heat can make a significant difference. I've tried this method myself, using heavy blankets to cover windows, and it's amazing how much warmth stays trapped inside. It's a simple yet effective way to work with what you already have, proving that resourcefulness often beats complexity. To replicate this technique, start by identifying the areas in your greenhouse where heat is most likely to escape: windows, doors, and vents. Use heavy-duty cloth, old blankets, or thermal curtains to cover these areas at night. If you don't have pre-made covers, you can create your own by layering burlap or canvas with reflective material like aluminum foil for added insulation. Remember to reopen vents in the morning to allow fresh air circulation and prevent overheating during the day. This balance of sealing and ventilation is key to maintaining a healthy greenhouse environment. When external heating options may be unavailable, controlling ventilation can help stretch the warmth generated during the day. It's an energy-free, resourceful way to protect plants from sudden temperature drops. Sealing in warmth is effective, but sometimes extra heat is necessary. That's where natural heat lamps powered by oil or kerosene come into the picture. Natural heat lamps. Sometimes even the Amish turn to direct heat sources when temperatures drop to extreme lows. But instead of modern electric heaters, they rely on simple oil or kerosene lamps to provide a steady source of warmth for their greenhouses. In a prolonged power outage or emergency, natural heat lamps offer a reliable, portable heat source that requires no electricity. They're an excellent backup solution for keeping greenhouses functional when modern systems fail. These natural heat lamps are placed strategically within the greenhouse, often near the most temperature-sensitive plants. The Amish typically use small, portable oil or kerosene lamps, which burn cleanly and produce a surprising amount of heat. To maximize safety, they place the lamps on sturdy, non-flammable surfaces and monitor them closely. What's remarkable is how efficiently these lamps work in combination with other methods, like thermal mass or cold frames, to keep plants warm even during the coldest nights. I once experimented with a small oil lamp in my greenhouse, and it was amazing how much warmth it generated. To use natural heat lamps at home, choose oil or kerosene lamps designed for indoor use and place them in areas that need the most heat. Ensure proper ventilation to prevent any build-up of fumes, and always keep the lamps on fire-resistant surfaces. For added safety, consider placing the lamps inside glass enclosures to contain the heat while protecting plants from direct exposure. While heat lamps provide a boost of warmth, the Amish also rely on materials like straw bales for insulation. Straw bales and natural materials. Sometimes the simplest materials are the most effective. For the Amish, straw bales are a go-to resource for insulating greenhouses during colder months. These thick, natural barriers trap heat and reduce energy loss, creating a cozy environment for plants. Straw bales are often stacked along the exterior walls of Amish greenhouses, particularly on the sides that lose the most heat. The dense, fibrous structure of straw acts as a natural insulator, keeping the warmth inside while blocking out the cold. In some cases, they use layers of wool blankets, soil mounds, or even old rugs for added insulation. This setup doesn't just keep plants warm, it also protects the structure itself from frost damage. Straw bales are not just effective, they're also biodegradable and easy to replace, making them an ideal choice for self-sufficient living. There's something nostalgic about working with straw. It reminds me of simpler days when creativity and resourcefulness were all you needed to solve problems. You can do the same by placing straw bales tightly around the base of your greenhouse, focusing on the north and west sides where heat loss is typically greatest. If straw isn't available, use soil, hay, or even thick fabric panels to achieve a similar effect. For a longer-lasting solution, consider creating a berm, mounding up soil around the greenhouse's foundation for year-round insulation. Insulation works wonders, but what happens when strong icy winds threaten the greenhouse? That's where windbreaks step in to save the day. Windbreaks. When icy winds sweep across open fields in winter, they can chill a greenhouse faster than any heat source can compensate. The Amish understand this challenge and use windbreaks, natural or built barriers, to protect their greenhouses from cold gusts while creating a more stable environment. Amish communities often plant trees or tall shrubs strategically around their greenhouses. These natural windbreaks not only block chilly winds, but also reduce heat loss by creating a microclimate. In some cases, they erect wooden fences or walls to shield the structure further, especially in areas with strong seasonal winds. The placement is key. Windbreaks are positioned on the sides most exposed to prevailing winds, ensuring maximum protection. The first time I saw a windbreak in action, I was amazed at how much of a difference it made. It felt like stepping into a calm, protected zone, even when the wind was howling all around. To create your own windbreak, assess the wind patterns around your greenhouse. Plant rows of evergreens, fast-growing shrubs, or bamboo to act as a natural barrier. If planting isn't an option, use wooden fences, straw bales, or even stacked firewood to serve the same purpose. The closer the barrier is to your greenhouse, without blocking sunlight, the more effective it will be at keeping the warmth in and the cold out. Windbreaks are a low-tech solution that can be set up almost anywhere. In an emergency when fuel or electricity might be scarce, this natural method can make the difference between a thriving greenhouse and frozen crops. With the greenhouse protected from the wind, let's shift our attention to what's beneath our feet. Rocks and gravel flooring might seem ordinary, but they're surprisingly effective at storing heat. Rocks and gravel flooring. Step into an Amish greenhouse, and you might notice the floor isn't just dirt, it's often lined with rocks or gravel. While it may seem unremarkable, this flooring choice is a clever way to store and radiate heat, keeping the greenhouse warm long after the sun sets. Rocks and gravel are excellent thermal mass materials, absorbing heat during the day and releasing it slowly at night. In Amish greenhouses, the floor is often lined with dark-coloured rocks or gravel to maximise heat absorption. This simple setup stabilises temperatures, reducing the risk of frost, and ensuring plants stay healthy even on cold nights. In emergencies, when every bit of warmth counts, rocks and gravel provide a passive, cost-effective way to keep greenhouses functional. They require no maintenance and can last for decades, making them a resilient solution for self-sufficient living. To replicate this method, consider replacing your greenhouse's dirt floor with a layer of gravel or stones. Choose dark-coloured materials for better heat absorption and spread them evenly across the floor. For added benefit, combine this with other heat retention methods, like water barrels or thermal walls, to create a multi-layered approach to warmth. I've used gravel in my own garden paths, and it's surprising how much warmth it retains after a sunny day. It's a testament to how even the simplest materials can make a big difference in sustainability. While rocks and gravel hold heat passively, manure piles take a more active role, generating heat through the natural process of decomposition. Manure piles. Manure piles might not be the first thing that comes to mind when thinking about heating, but for the Amish, they're a natural powerhouse. As manure decomposes, it releases a significant amount of heat, making it an invaluable resource for warming greenhouses during colder months. Manure piles are a resource you can rely on even in extreme situations, like prolonged power outages or fuel shortages. They're renewable, require no modern technology, and support the closed-loop farming practices essential for survival in emergencies. I once visited a farm that used manure piles for heating, and it was incredible to feel the warmth radiating off something so seemingly ordinary. It's a testament to how simple, natural methods can have profound impacts. The Amish often collect manure from their livestock, horses, cows, or chickens, and form large piles near or inside their greenhouses. These piles are carefully built to allow proper decomposition while minimizing odor. The heat generated by the microbial breakdown of the manure creates a warm microclimate that stabilizes greenhouse temperatures. To maximize efficiency, the Amish sometimes combine manure with straw or wood shavings, which help balance moisture levels and improve aeration. The placement of these piles is strategic, along the perimeter of the greenhouse, or even beneath planting beds in some cases, to ensure even heat distribution. If you have access to manure, start by creating a composting area near your greenhouse. Layer manure with straw or leaves to maintain a balanced composition. Turn the pile regularly to aerate it and encourage consistent decomposition. For an even more direct approach, you could place a smaller pile inside your greenhouse, using it as both a heat source and a nutrient base for your plants. Manure piles are fantastic for generating warmth, but what about plants that need their own focused care? Cold frames provide the perfect solution. Cold frames and mini greenhouses. Even in a heated greenhouse, some plants need extra protection from the cold. That's where cold frames, mini greenhouses within the greenhouse, come into play. The Amish use these small, insulated enclosures to create microclimates for their most delicate crops. Cold frames are often built from reclaimed wood and old window panes. These boxes are placed directly over planting beds or pots, trapping heat and providing an extra layer of insulation. By layering warm soil, compost, or even manure beneath the frames, the Amish ensure that the plants inside are shielded from frost and temperature fluctuations. In extreme conditions, when heating a full greenhouse might be impossible, cold frames provide a focused solution for protecting high-value crops. They're like tiny lifeboats for your plants, ensuring survival even in the harshest winters. I've used cold frames before, and it's always incredible to see tender greens thriving in the dead of winter. Building a cold frame is simpler than you might think. Start with a wooden box or a repurposed plastic bin and cover it with a clear hinged lid. An old window or acrylic sheet works perfectly. Place the frame inside your greenhouse over the most temperature-sensitive plants. For added heat, you can line the bottom with straw or compost before planting. After exploring all these ingenious methods, it's only fitting to end with the most universal and timeless technique of all: maximizing sunlight. Sunlight. Imagine stepping into a greenhouse in the dead of winter and feeling the comforting warmth of a sunny spring day. That's the brilliance of passive solar heating, a method the Amish have mastered to harness the power of sunlight effectively. For them, sunlight isn't just light, it's a lifeline for keeping their greenhouses warm and productive throughout the year. To make the most of sunlight, Amish greenhouses are meticulously positioned to face south, capturing every possible ray of sun during the day. The roof and walls are designed with clear, angled panels, often made of glass or sturdy plastic, to allow sunlight to flood the space. This energy is then trapped inside, warming not just the air, but also the surfaces, soil, and plants. The Amish often combine their understanding of sunlight with practical ingenuity. For example, they angle their greenhouse roofs to the optimal tilt for their location, ensuring maximum solar exposure during the winter months when the sun is lower in the sky. Additionally, the materials they use for walls and roofs are chosen for their ability to let in light while retaining heat, effectively creating a natural heat trap. You can apply this method at home by situating your greenhouse, or even a simple cold frame, where it gets the most sunlight, ideally facing south. Use materials like polycarbonate panels, glass or clear plastic to construct the walls and roof. If you already have a greenhouse, consider adding reflective materials on the northern side to bounce more sunlight into the space. The goal is to create a design that traps heat effectively without needing any external energy sources. In a world where electricity and fuel might not always be available, passive solar heating offers a sustainable, self-reliant way to grow food year-round. During a prolonged blackout or even an apocalyptic event, this simple method could be the difference between thriving and struggling. I've always found it fascinating how sunlight, something we take for granted, can be turned into a powerful tool for survival and sustainability. It's one of those methods that feels timeless, connecting us to nature while solving a very modern problem.